In August 1944, Germany's high command believed physics, not Allied firepower, would stop Patton.
They've outrun their logistics, 400 miles, fuel, tonnage. Patton halts in days, perhaps hours.
No army advances without gasoline.
Every German general knew the math of mechanized war. But across France, another equation was already in motion, one the Germans hadn't solved. A one-way highway lit up at night. 6,000 trucks, running 20 hours out of 24. They weren't just hauling supplies. They were about to haul the front line and every German assumption straight into the ground. Washington
Keep that pace
sent
going,
industry.
team.
Comms
We're
sent
making
permission.
excellent progress
On paper,
here.
it looked simple. Build a one-way highway that didn't exist, then run it day and night. Communications Zone ComZ under Lieutenant General John C.H. Lee owned the mission. Advanced Section, ADSEC, Brigadier General Ewart G. Plank owned the execution. Colonel Clarence W. Richmond fused truck companies into a single beating artery. Lieutenant Colonel Lauren A. Ayers trained the drivers, found the trucks, and wrote the rules you don't find in manuals. They gave it a railroad name, Red Ball Code, for freight that moved before anything else. The roads would mimic rails, one lane out, one lane back. Priority absolute. Stage 1. Saint-Lô to Chartres and Dreux, close to the beaches, close enough to fail safe. Then the front surged. The highway had to surge with it. The loop slid north and east, Soissons, then Soissons, keeping the mouths of Patton's divisions within reach.
Proceed!
Military police posted at regulating points turned public roads into exclusive lanes. Headlights on at night, minimum speeds enforced. Anything slower than the flow was shoved off the tarmac. The order wasn't drive carefully. The order was keep the river moving. Trucks launched in pulses. Convoys every few minutes. Fuel and ammo up front. Empties back. Roadside cranes and mechanics where depots used to be. If a truck died, they fixed it in 15 minutes, or they pushed it into the ditch and took its parts. This wasn't elegant, it was fast, and speed was the point. The plan set a peak target for the opening surge, and accepted that the long average would be lower, because the front wouldn't wait for perfect. Now fill that blueprint with people. About 6,000 trucks, 23,000 drivers, 3 out of 4 African American. Learning France by headlight and road sign, and learning a new law of war. Mass beats friction. The Germans had counted miles on a map. Red Ball began counting minutes between convoys, and when minutes shrink, fronts move. Think of the road as a pipeline, not traffic throughput. The rules flip the manual on its head. 2 one-way lanes, closed to everyone else. 1 out, 1 back, 24 hours a day. No blackout on the route, headlights on, beams cutting through French night. Military police controlled the flow like valve operators. Minimum speed wasn't a suggestion, it was law. Convoys launched in 5-minute pulses. Drivers held spacing by watch, not by sight. 25 miles an hour was the standard. On open stretches, 30, sometimes 35, just to keep the river from backing up. If a truck coughed, the rule was triage. 15 minutes to fix on the shoulder plugs, belts, lines, then off the road. Cargo cross-decked in minutes. Parts pulled from deadlined rigs without ceremony.
Get those
The
parts
goal
off
wasn't
the truck.
saving trucks. The goal was saving time. Every 20 to 25 miles, a service node, fuel cans stacked like bricks, drums on hand pumps, a wrecker, a crane, a tent with coffee and grease. Refuel hot engines left running because killing momentum killed the system.
Almost done here.
MPs had absolute authority on the route. A slow mover became a hazard, not a victim. They pushed it into the ditch and opened the artery. Passing wasn't about courtesy. It was a drill clear, signal, surge, slot back in. Radios stayed terse. Call sign, milepost, status. The route kept its own weather. Headlights made a ribbon of white across the hedgerows. Every 5 minutes, another pulse. Every milepost, another chance to fail fast and move faster. These were not safety rules, they were flow rules. A railroad without rails, a pipeline without pipes. The doctrine of conservation gave way to the doctrine of motion. Once the rules hardened, the river accelerated. And when a river meets a the fortress doesn't argue, it erodes. Once the rules locked in, the road began to breathe. 5-minute pulses, milepost after milepost. The convoy learned its own heartbeat. They personalized the iron. Slogans slapped in chalk and paint. A name on the hood made a 2.5-ton feel like something you could will forward when the grade bit back. Shifts ran 20 hours, sometimes more. Catnaps were currency, 10 minutes at a fuel node, chin on chest, then back into gear. Coffee, cigarettes, a greasy sandwich wrapped in wax paper. The ritual was simple. Roll, refuel, roll again. They kept their radios terse and their
More
rituals
mud.
human, a
Just a
shared
little
lighter,
bit.
a joke about the mud, a promise to the truck behind you. If I stall, you push. In villages that had known only gray ration cards and quiet fear, the convoys arrived loud and generous. Chocolate, soap, a wordless message. Abundance is real, and it moves at 35 miles an hour. The choreography made the machine. A deadline truck became a parts bin. Ammunition walked across tailgates in seconds. No elegies for equipment, only momentum. Day after day, the loop held. Outloaded, back empty, out again. Drivers learned every bend by feel, every milepost by smell. The diesel, the cordite, the wet wheat at dawn. Most of the hands on those wheels were black soldiers, still segregated in the army, still excluded from counters back home. Here, their skill and stubbornness were the difference between tanks moving and tanks stopping. This was not elegance, it was endurance. Not pretty, but precise where it mattered. Spacing, tempo, handoffs. The road didn't care who got the credit. It cared that the next truck cleared the next mile. When the road choked, they didn't hold a meeting. They moved the problem off the pavement. 15-minute triage at the shoulder. If it breathes, you fix it. If it doesn't, you cannibalize it and clear the lane. Engines were swapped curbside in 45 minutes by crews who could do it in their sleep. A dead truck became a parts store. The rule wasn't elegance, it was flow. When the artery clogged, they built capillaries. White ball, green diamond, red lion. ABC routes stood up in 48 hours or less. New markers painted, trucks assigned, convoys rolling. No doctrine for it, just velocity. The flow wasn't random. Fuel to forward dumps, ammunition to core parks, personnel stripped off buses so trucks could haul only what killed distance or the enemy. Every gallon and crate was another mile bought for the front. Bridges came down, bypasses went up, rubble became roadbed, timber became span. At Mantes, the Germans figured 6 weeks to halt the trucks. American engineers built a temporary bridge in 14 hours. Convoys detoured 8 miles and never lost the beat. Autumn turned ugly sheets of rain, greasy mud, fog that erased the horizon. Chains on tires, alcohol in radiators, eyes glued to the cat's eyes in the dark. Speed dropped, but the line never snapped. 15 minutes, then out of the stream. The next truck shadowed in to take the load. Redundancy beat repair time. The convoy was a living thing. Shed a cell here, grow one there, keep moving. Paperwork got the same treatment as engines, short, brutal, and done at speed. The point wasn't perfection. The point was pressure on the line, on the clock, on the enemy. Anything below the minimum got muscled off the road. Mercy for drivers, not for broken iron. The machine's kindness was momentum, keep the promise to the truck behind you. Those numbers would have been fantasy without the road. At Metz, the arithmetic turns into artillery, 100,000 rounds in a single day, and 20% still sitting in reserve, because the trucks kept coming. At Metz, artillery wasn't a supporting arm, it was a conveyor belt of destruction. XX Corps burned through ammunition like a factory on overtime, hour after hour. And because the trucks kept coming, gun crews did something German batteries hadn't done in years. They fired without ration cards. The price was brutal. Trucks lived 10,000 miles on average instead of 30. Deadline rates hovered around 30% on a bad day. Engines came and went by the hundreds each week, tires by the tens of thousands. And still, the tonnage line didn't dip. The road ate trucks, but the system fed the road. Red Ball's miracle wasn't avoiding wear, it was outproducing it. When a truck died, a truck behind it carried the same load. When a tire blew, a new set was already waiting under a tarp, 20 miles up the line. The graph tells the story. Attrition spikes, tonnage holds. Logistics faster than consumption. At night, the front had a new sound. Not tanks, trucks. A horizon of engines moving like tidewater. Endless, indifferent, inevitable. German infantry counted the beats the way sailors count waves. 3 cartridges apiece in their pouches, millions of rounds flowing past their ears. On village roads, French civilians learned a different arithmetic: soap, chocolate, cigarettes handed off from gloved hands at rolling speed. Abundance had a sound, and it changed loyalties faster than any proclamation. The Wehrmacht heard it too, and it hollowed out the night. A captured colonel admitted, "We knew we had lost when we understood your supply." Field Marshal Model put it colder. If the reports were true, they faced not just a superior army, but a superior civilization. The physics finally bit back. As Patton raced east, the round trip stretched past 700 miles. Convoy intervals sagged from 5 minutes to 15. Average speeds slowed. Drivers were running out of hours, trucks out of parts. Red Ball answered the way it always had, by changing the rules midstream. They split the marathon into relays roughly 350 miles per leg. Transfer points sprang up in farm fields, loads hopped trucks without sleeping, driver rotations reset human endurance. Forward maintenance bases moved the wrenches closer to the fight, and headquarters doubled the vehicle pool on the pinch points. Within 72 hours, tonnage snapped back. The loop was longer, but the line was faster. Fuel remained the heartbeat, and in this phase, it came mostly on rubber. Undersea pipelines would matter later, but not yet. So the trucks carried the burden through the crisis. Gas to the dumps, ammo to the core, rations to the foxholes until the iron rails finally caught up. While Red Ball kept the armies moving, railroad engineers were stitching France back together, nearly 1,000 miles of track rebuilt under wartime conditions. As forward railheads pushed east and Antwerp's port came online, the calculus changed. Steel wheels move mass cheaper than rubber tires. Red Ball was never meant to be forever. It was a bridge, an 82-day surge to seize momentum. When the rails were ready, the road let go. Orders came down. The one-way highway shut off as quickly as it had roared to life. Trucks were reassigned, routes returned to civilians, and the bulk of the lift moved to rail and the ports. The campaign had done its job. It bought time, it bought distance, and it bought the initiative. From here on, the steel arteries would carry the weight into Germany because a temporary road had kept the war's pulse from ever slowing. At the top sat Lieutenant General John C.H. Lee. As COMZ commander, he set the tonnage priorities, signed the road into existence, and shielded the trucks with absolute precedence. One echelon forward, Brigadier General Ewart G. Plank at ADSEC turned policy into movement. On the night of August 23rd, he wrote the playbook. 1. Way loops, MPs on the choke points, maintenance pushed to the shoulder. Colonel Clarence W. Richmond did the hard wiring, consolidating scattered truck companies into a single pulse, aligning dispatch schedules with core demands, and arming military police with the authority to keep the line clear. Lieutenant Colonel Lauren A. Ayers became the architect in grease and dust, scouring depots for deuce and a halves, drafting the 15-minute roadside triage, and drilling replacement drivers until a convoy could breathe without stopping. This chain of command preached one ethic: initiative at the edge. If a bridge fell, the plan moved around it. If a truck died, the column swallowed the loss and kept time. And from the very top, Eisenhower noticed. His aide, Harry Butcher, recorded the verdict as the convoys rolled past. These men are winning the war as surely as any infantry. In the end, Red Ball Express left more than paved shoulders and dented fenders. It proved a hard truth. Logistics isn't the thing behind strategy. Logistics is strategy. The rules that beat Germany weren't romantic. They were operational math, made human. Volume over efficiency. Push more tons faster than friction can steal. Red Ball did that by flooding the road. Convoy after convoy. 5-minute intervals. Redundancy over vulnerability. Assume breakdowns. Plan to cannibalize. Keep spares rolling, and the column never stops. Decentralized execution equals speed. Push decisions to the shoulder, to the sergeant with a wrench and the lieutenant with a map, and the system outruns enemy reactions. Standardization equals scale. One truck family, one parts bin, one maintenance rhythm, so 1 million moving pieces behave like one machine. Its social legacy mattered too. The men who kept the pulse, mostly African-American drivers in a segregated army, earned recognition that helped push the U.S. military toward desegregation in the late 1940s. They didn't just move fuel and ammo, they moved a country closer to its promise. When they came home, they brought Red Ball muscle memory with them. 24-hour operations, dispatch discipline, preventive maintenance on the shoulder instead of in a back shop. 1,000 small habits that built a civilian industry, trucking firms, distribution centers, and, ultimately, an interstate highway network designed for uninterrupted flow. The doctrine was simple. If you can keep trucks rolling around the clock, you can move an economy. That ledger isn't just numbers. It's time saved, cities liberated, lives not lost, because the front line never ran dry. German generals planned for our tanks, our planes, our ships. They didn't plan for 6,000 trucks every 5 minutes at 35 miles an hour. Red Ball Express didn't just move supplies, it moved the front line. In modern war, amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics, and Americans talk trucks.